Welcome to Watches with Dennis, and we're going to do a Q&A video today. I think I did one a long time ago, and I wanted to see if I could do one a little more formal. There are more subscribers now, so I thought maybe I'd get more questions, which I did, though I have to give a full shout out to MonkeySeeProduction, who was the only one who replied to the comment thread that I created on YouTube itself. But I also had questions come in through email somewhere before I actually put out the call, so I didn't know if everyone wanted their name said, so I won't be saying the names, but I've got a good little list of questions here, and I just thought it'd be nice to run through them, not do it as a live stream, let me tighten it up in editing if I end up rambling too much, and just sort of go through some things. So I'm going to look to the side from time to time because I have these all typed up, pasted into a Word file so that I don't have to memorize them. One of the first questions that I received, actually, and I did reply to this person directly with more detail, but it was, what things should a watch collector have on hand? And the short answer would be, it really depends on just what all you're comfortable doing with watches. So you could have on hand as little as, I'd say, a microfiber cloth no matter what. You'll want something to be able to clean the crystals on your watches. They are going to get dirty. They'll get watermarks the moment you wash your hands. So I would say that for sure. The other items I would recommend for anyone to get is, especially if they're collecting watches, is a set of jeweler's screwdrivers. Now, these don't need to be high quality. You might hear people talking about the value of non-hollow tipped screwdrivers. I love Bergeron screwdrivers. I do have a set. But that's really more for watchmaking. And when it comes to screwdrivers, the main purpose for them is if you have screws holding your bracelets together. And I do think in an ideal world, a watch collector does not want to be going and paying a jeweler all the time to resize watches. And then the other final thing besides that and the microfiber is a watch repair kit. And it's called a watch repair kit. If you go on Amazon, do a search, that you can find a whole bunch of different ones. They're generally under $20. And that's so you can size the rest of the watch types of bracelets and straps that happen. So these kits will have holders so you can set the bracelets in. It's kind of funny. They call them repair kits. And by and large, the stuff in them is for resizing, though they may come with some extra spring bars and stuff. But they'll have spring bar tools so you can take off watch bands. They'll have the hammer so you can hammer out pin and collar systems, or the cotter pin style watch security. So not everything, especially on lower end watches, uses screws. Nutshell summary: screwdrivers, watch repair kit, microfiber. All right, next question. What is your watch buying cycle? And this was a Monkey See question, and he had a whole lot of detail. And go to the community section and read his write-ups. He actually provided 4 questions, and they're all very, very detailed, and I've obviously reduced them for brevity purposes. So he has a whole cycle that he goes through when it comes to purchasing watches, going through the ADs. It's based around the release cycle. I've never really thought about it in that capacity. I don't have a cycle would be the short answer. So the longer answer is, so what is my approach to acquiring watches? It primarily depends upon my review of releases, review of older watches as I just go about my time in the hobby, coupled with my financial position and how that relates to any other hobbies I'm engaged in. So as most of the longtime viewers know, my other main hobby is pinball. Pinball also works on a release cycle. Pinball machines are still made. Very high dollar, like they're along the lines about what I would pay for watches, plus I buy used as well as new. So given that, I kind of revolve around the pinball cycle a little bit, because if I'm buying a pinball machine, especially a new in-box pinball machine, I'm not buying a new watch. But other than that, it's pretty much just based off of, do I have enough sort of surplus cash? Am I not wanting to invest in anything? Am I feeling like a new watch? Do I feel like I need to unload some watches first? Those are the factors. So I don't really have a cycle that's working around the calendar other than the pinball aspect, but more so if I've got enough surplus funds and I feel like I want to do another purchase within the watch collecting hobby. Next question. This is a YouTube-oriented one. Do you get paid for your watch reviews? And it depends what you mean by the question. If you mean, does YouTube pay me, then the answer is yes, because the channel is monetized. I get paid for pretty much all of the videos, mostly ad revenue. But I'm thinking this question's actually more along the lines of, am I paid by the watch company or a jeweler or whoever, does someone send me a watch and pay me money to do a review, or send me a watch and let me keep the watch to do the review? And the answer is no. I do not accept those offers. So, and I'm a very small channel, so I have not had many, but I have had some. I think, it's hard to remember, I think I've had one watch brand reach out about asking me to do a review, and I don't know what the details were going to be because I didn't follow up. And then I think I've had 2 instances, maybe one for sure, with watch bands, like watch strap companies, asking me if I would want to receive watch bands and do reviews of their watch bands. And I haven't followed up on any of them. I don't reply. Now, in the United States, the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, governs how people who are doing these sort of things like videos and Instagram and all of that must announce if they have been compensated to do a review. So I don't object to people doing it as long as they follow the rules of announcement. So again, in the US, it would be the video needs to denote that you were compensated to do the review. You should have that information in the description. In the case of YouTube, there's actually an option that we can choose when we upload videos that toggles that says this is a paid promotion. And so that should also be toggled. But all of that said, I don't think people can trust a review that's a bot review. And I think some of the reviewers who accept these arrangements, they do a great job announcing that the review is compensated. And I think some of them honestly try very hard to be fair and unbiased and not slant it, even though they've been compensated. But I think for an end user, you always will have that doubt in that case. And so no, all of the watches I have reviewed on this channel are watches I own. Would I be willing to borrow a watch from someone to do a review? Yes. Would I be willing to accept a watch from a watch manufacturer if I was to send the watch back and not take money from them to do the review, and I would have full independence on the review? Yes, I would be willing to do that. But if I get to keep the watch, as nice as it would be to be able to sell it, this is a hobby channel. I have a career that's totally unrelated to watches, so I don't need this for income. And so no, I'm not interested in going down that rabbit hole. Next question is, what is your watch collecting philosophy? That's a good one, and it's evolved a little bit over time, but I won't walk through the whole evolution. My strategy is I like brand diversity. So I've set a rule for myself that I will not own more than 2 of a watch from a single manufacturer. So far, I've been able to stick with that. And if I want another one from a brand that I already have 2 of, then I need to get rid of one of them, is how I've been approaching it. And the reason is, I think even though we do see differences across model lines with a company, it's the cleanest break for having a different design philosophy is going to be just to move on from a particular manufacturer. So that's my whole philosophy. That's the only rule that I currently adhere to regarding watches. I don't care if they're expensive, within reason, of course. I don't care if they're cheap, within quality specifications that I want to meet. But beyond that, it's just the no more than 2 per manufacturer. Next question. What do you think of TAG Heuer? I've never owned a TAG, so I don't think all that much about them. I almost said I don't think much of them, but I didn't mean it in a more literal sense. Like I really just don't think about TAG very much. In my opinion, the company has made some major steps of improvement versus where the reputation's been. I think of them as kind of like a less successful Breitling. Now, maybe financially they're more successful than Breitling, but I feel like Breitling, their CEO came in and really turned the ship around. They've had a lot more heritage focus, and I think the company has solved the problem where there was a lot of depreciation on their overly blingy watches. In the case of TAG Heuer, I think that they're also making a lot of really smart moves with some of the things they're doing with their aqua racers, and obviously leaning on designs like the Monaco, which are very, very popular. So they're leaning on the back catalog as well. For me, I'm more interested in Breitling than I am in TAG, because TAG also does a lot in the smartwatch space, which I think is smart. But the CEO is an NFT person, so going in and pushing things like an NFT watch and stuff, I think that's missing the boat. Again, that's just my opinion, but it's the other thing with TAG is a lot of their designs feel like little spin-offs of, they're not pure straight up homages, but they do these little spin-offs of, hey, look, our aqua racer, it looks an awful lot like we took some design language from the Omega 300s and 300Ms. And, okay, our dials have horizontal lines rather than wave lines, little things like that. But the specs on the watches themselves are pretty good. So I don't want to just turn my nose up at it, but there just aren't any tags that I'm interested in buying. So I don't look at the company very often. Next question. What's the point of a one watch collection? There's no point, because there is no such thing as a one watch collection. And I'm sorry to be pedantic about it, but a collection is a group of something. You cannot own one of something and be a collector. It does not work. When I see people say, what is the perfect one watch collection? It's not a collection. If it's one watch, you don't collect. It's that simple. Do you like microbrands? Okay, that's a tricky one. So the short answer is not really. I don't have anything against microbrands in the generalized sense. It's just they're so samey to me, so many of them. And I know you've got situations where a lot of them are using the same factories for the construction. A lot of them obviously are turning to the same third-party movements that everyone's turning to. So it has to come down to the creativity. So some microbrands are very, very creative, and a lot of them are not. If I see yet another launched microbrand that puts in a Miyota movement into a dive watch, I would roll my eyes, except I won't even open the article about it. I just don't care. So I do have 3 examples that I did pull together, though, of microbrands that I do think are interesting, that I do like. Well, there's the one I've owned still. I am trying to sell it, and that is Ming. So I have a Ming Messina Lab collaboration watch, but Ming as a design language, with what they've done with their sapphire crystals, with the shape of the case, the flared lugs, it's a very unique looking watch. Unfortunately for me, as I found out after owning one, they're not comfortable for me, but I like the look. So that's an example of a microbrand that I could get behind if it was actually comfortable for me to wear the watch. Another one, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce it right, is Anordain. They have some very, very impressive enamel dials. Enamel dials are not something we see very often anymore, especially on companies that are not that sort of ultra high-end style. You could turn to the Holy Trinity and find an enamel dial, but not a lot of other companies do it. So again, I think they've carved out a nice niche, and that would be an example of a microbrand that I would be interested in. Another one, Studio Underdog. So we're just talking like really interesting looking things. And they're the brand that has that really watermelon dial. Like I have a Zodiac, which I'm also trying to sell right now, which it was called the watermelon because it's of its color scheme. And while I like that, it ain't like this. Studio Underdog's watermelon makes you think of a literal watermelon. It's just, again, they've just gone in a completely different direction than any other brand, especially an established brand, would really ever go. And so that's what I expect to see out of a microbrand. They need to be doing something that's different. Just being another cheap dive watch is in no way interesting. And last question. This one's actually got a bit of detail, so let me look down and read it. This is another one from MonkeySee. I missed the Journe phase. Also, the Cartier CPCP phase. Had many opportunities but passed. Since I have a strict list now, I rarely feel regret when telling ADs no when I get the call for a watch that I don't want. So here's the question. Am I a bad person since I passed on subs and Batmans? No, you're not a bad person. You're a good person. And I know there was additional detail about the logic, and it's the logic I do agree with. Like, rather than just getting stuff because you can to flip it, why not let other people have the opportunity that are actually interested in the watch? And if you're not interested, then why bother? Why go to the effort of getting it? Even if you have an established relationship with the AD, that relationship isn't going to go away just because you decide not to buy a Submariner. I mean, you might wait. It makes more sense to wait and get the things that you really want, especially once that's established. So, like, if an authorized dealer called me up and offered me a Batman, I would tell him no. I've never considered buying it. I have no interest in it. I think about the sub because I have considered getting a Submariner. But if it's a watch that I haven't really thought about, then no, I wouldn't pull the trigger on it. Back to the prior question, or the microbrand one where I talked about Ming. I got the Ming because I saw the design and I thought it was interesting. And the whole buying process was a debacle with them. And I was on their email list because I was following the watch. And they made the offer for me to get it. And that's why I bought it, as I thought, you know what? I was interested in it. I just didn't think I'd ever have the chance to get it. So I did buy it. And unfortunately, it doesn't wear well for me, but I didn't know at the time, and I took a chance. So, back to this, no, whether you've got a relationship or not, I don't ever think it's wrong to pass on a watch you're not interested in. I think In fact, I'd go the opposite way and say I think it's probably wrong if you start just accepting watches because you feel obligated to. Don't buy something. It's a hobby. It's to be fun. Don't buy something unless you're really interested in it. Anyway, those are all the questions that I had for this episode. Comment below if you like this format, if this works for you, and I can do one again in the future. And or if you have thoughts on any of the questions and what your answers would be to them, of course, I'm interested in seeing that. Otherwise, if you enjoy the video, please give it a like. If you want to be notified when I have new videos, somewhere floating around here, somewhere is a subscribe button, so you can click on that. And I'll talk to you all on the next one. Take care.